All right, so our first photo exercise of the semester, we have taken shutter prioritized photos to get high-speed photos of people jumping. And I got a clean plate of the background first, and I'm going to start by opening that exposure with Photoshop. There it is. You can see it as layer 0. Now to bring the other exposures into it, I am going to hit F11, and I am simply going to click and drag and drop them on. And it will add them as a layer, and then I hit return to place them. Okay. If you want to save time, you can select multiple images, click and drag them on, and it will stack them as multiple layers as you hit return and place them. No matter the resolution of your camera, you can see two different cameras here, two slightly different frames. So the Canon frame is a little bit narrower than my Nikon frame. You're going to become used to the frame that your camera shoots in, and you're going to be adapting it and sketching it. But you'll see that when you bring them in from the desktop and they come in as what are called smart objects, they'll automatically fill the initial frame resolution. Okay, and that's helpful. Okay, now I'm going to turn off every layer except my background layer and the first layer I brought in. Okay. Now, how do I make an exquisite corpse? How do I make it so that there's the legs of one person, and the legs you need to use are the person whose feet are off the ground, and you want to make sure that they're in focus, right? Not blurry. So we start with that, and then we basically erase everything else. We can use the eraser at 100% hardness with 100% opacity, 100% flow, and we could erase, but it won't let us, right? And the reason it won't let us is because, oh, it says the target layer is hidden. That's not what I want. If I select the layer that I want to erase that's turned on and I try, it will tell me it can't because the contents have to be rasterized first. So this is a smart object, a smart layer that was been brought on. So in order to be able to edit it, to change its pixels, I have to right click on it and say rasterize layer. Or if you get that error message and you say OK, it will rasterize it for you. And you'll see the change happen. When it's a smart object, it will have a little icon within its preview window in layer. And when you rasterize it, that will go away. So you want to rasterize all your layers. Okay, now I have this layer, and I'm going to do a quick double exposure. I'm going to take the opacity down and see how it lines up with my background. And it doesn't quite line up, right? So I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm going to make it line up. And if I want to zoom in, and this is called nudging, I can use my arrow keys and line it up perfectly. Okay, so how am I doing that? I have two layers I'm playing with. My background layer, which doesn't have anybody on it, and then the layer of someone jumping. And the layer of someone jumping, I took my opacity down to about 50%, and then I moved it with the move tool to line up with the bricks and the grass. So now when I take it back to 100% and I toggle it on and off, you'll see how it looks like I just kind of appear out of nowhere. Ooh, magic. All right. Now, this might be where you start if you don't have a background plate. I'm going to add the next layer. So I open it up, I take its opacity down to 50% or so. And I want to line up the desired features. But this time I'm not going to line up the wall and the grass, I'm going to line up the waist. So I want to make KJ's belt my belt. Right? And if I want to zoom in and use my arrow keys to nudge that, great. Now KJ's waist is just a little bit slimmer than my waist. So how can I make that match? Now I'm going to transform the image, just like we did when we were playing with our portraits and putting the background and filling the background behind it. I hit Command T. And the other thing you can do is say Edit, Free Transform. What I love about Photoshop is every time you go find something, it will tell you what the shortcut is. So Command T we're going to use a lot. And that's whenever we want to change the scale or the rotation of the image. So I hit Command T and I get what's called a transform box. And to change the scale without warping the image, I hold down Shift and I click and drag from a corner. And I just want to make the waist a little bit bigger so that it goes from side to side and that waist fits. Because I want to transition the legs of one person with the torso of another. You also get practice zooming in and out. Command minus will zoom you out. So I'm just going to go a little bit bigger. But I haven't hit return yet. So I'm still in the middle of the transformation until I hit return. So I made it a little bit bigger and then I nudge it back. And look, it's exactly there, side to side now. Okay, now I can zoom out, and to make that transformation happen, I hit return. And this is like a New Kids on the Block album cover or something. It's like I got a vest on, it's a lot of energy. It's good, all right. I like the white shoes and the black shoes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so now I take that top exposure up to 100%, but I know I don't want his legs. I want my legs. So I need to cut out that part of the exposure. So I'm going to use the lasso and basically cut it right under his belt, because I like the belt. Loop around, select that whole chunk of that exposure. So I'm just working on this layer. And then I hit delete. It takes all those pixels away. And then I have my legs underneath. Woo! All right. Now, you can notice these were done with different cameras. You can notice how much more saturated this is than this. But I'm not going to worry about that yet. Okay, my next layer. Turn it on, put it at 50%. And I'm going to do the same things. But this time I'm putting the head where I want it. So I'm going to line up the head. And because the head's at a different angle, I might need to scale it but also rotate it. So I'll do that when we start the next demo. Because at this point, I want to save the project. And I go to File, Save As. And the reason I want to save it now is because I want to preserve all these layers. And I'm going to save it to the desktop as a Photoshop file. PSD, so the format should be Photoshop. It should go to the desktop, and I want to rename it with my name, first and last, and then some descriptor. And what's nice about Max is you can make these names pretty long. And then I save it. And then to make sure it's saved, I hit F11 and I make sure that there's the Photoshop file there. And I'll mark that as green because it's the one I want to start with next time. Once I've verified that it's saved, I can close it. I can quit Photoshop. And now I want to organize these into a folder. And this is going to be your first exercise for Photo Fall 2015. And we're going to move all of your reference shots and your PSD shot into that folder. All right? The beginning of next class, we are going to put them all together, finish them off, and then upload them to PhotoBucket to critique. So I'm going to come around and help you guys. Just make sure that we save your progress.